guys, welcome to Northwest Connection. This episode we're joined by Becky Laverty, one of the architects behind the atmosphere, artistry and alchemy of Roadburn Festival and the driving force of Slowpoke Fanzine. If you live for boundary shattering performances, visionary curation and the kind of creativity that turns the festival into a pilgrimage, this one's for you. Let's get into it. Hello, welcome to Northwest Connection. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, it's nice to be here. My name is Becky Laverty. I do various things in the music world, so I guess that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so you've built a career across festival bookings, PR and local promotion. So where did it all begin for you, and what were your first steps into working in the music business?
Oh, this is going back a long time. I mean, I've always loved music, and the unfortunate thing about that is I have no musical talent of my own to speak of. So being in a band was never going to be my destiny. But I've always been attracted to working with musicians and being involved in the community around music. So I've booked shows for bands and, you know, starting with just friends' bands and stuff like that. That's how I kind of got into it. I booked a tour for my friends who were in the band Narcosis. Do you remember them? They're from the Northwest.
Yeah, vaguely. I do remember the name.
And a band called Mistress, who were on Earache at the time. And that's how I got to know Mick Kenny, who was the drummer from Mistress. And he was, at the time, setting up a record label with Shane from Napalm Death called Fito Records. And they asked me if I knew any journalists. And I said, I do know a couple of journalists. And that's how I got my first job in PR, working for their label. And so then I went on to work with Anil Nathrak, another of Mick's bands, and all of the stuff they put out on their label. And that was my not particularly graceful entrance into publicity. I had no idea what I was doing, was making it up as I went along, but I have since discovered that's what most people are doing. And then from there, the first label that I worked for, a sort of bigger label, was Earache. And then I started working with independent bands as well. All of this stuff I did as a freelance. I worked for Relapse for a while, doing their UK publicity. I've worked with lots of independent bands on labels. I did some freelance work for Prosthetic and then started working for them more permanently, all kinds of things. And somewhere along, I'm rushing ahead here, I know. And somewhere along the line, I started working for Roadburn. I also used to work for Damnation Festival here in the UK, doing their publicity. And that's kind of was how I ended up doing festival stuff as well. So it's been a very winding path to get to where I am now.
And where are you based, Becky?
In Glossop, on the edge of the Peak District. So it's very beautiful. Literally the view outside my window is green rolling hills, but it's half an hour to Manchester on the train. So that's where I go to most shows these days. Yeah.
So who are your biggest musical influences and how have they shaped what you do?
Well, what a question. I mean, I've always loved pop music. Like, pop music is the first music that I loved. And I still have a soft spot for pop music. But the music that I have worked with predominantly is metal or other sort of heavy genres of music. And I find a lot of artists within the sort of heavy music realm are very inspiring in different ways. And how has it influenced like what I do? I think like being able to like look at like the way that the people connect with pop artists, which is I know it sounds it is very different from the sort of work that I do, but like understanding like that, I'm very fascinated by the connection between artist and audience and how that forms. That was what like drove my work as a publicist. Like I always sort of preface this by saying I feel like it sounds a little bit pretentious, but like the work that I wanted to do as a publicist was really like help reinforce that connection between artist and audience. And I think that there's a lot of that like fandom on display in the pop world. Like you can see how people become fans and become fanatical about artists, but it's a bit more reserved, I think, and a bit more it's a very different relationship, I think, in underground music, but I think it's still just as impactful. And I love seeing that connection form and like helping artists tell their story in a way that connects with an audience and helping, just bring those two things closer together. So in terms of like pinpointing specific artists, it's really difficult, but like there are artists that I have worked with in more recent times that I find very like inspiring. And I feel like I know this is going to be one of the things that we're going to talk about later down the line, but like I've put on some shows here in Glossop, which is just like a sleepy town, like I say, on the edge of the Peak District. But one of the first bands that I booked to come and play here was Thou. And like the reason they wanted to come and play here is because we're friends, but because they're up for the fun part of it, of like playing in a weird place. And like being able to see, I mean, when they played, it was last April, and they played on Saturday night to like 80 people upstairs at the Globe in Glossop. And the following weekend, we had them at Roadburn, and they played to 3,000 people on the main stage. And both shows were amazing, and they connected with the audience in different ways. But I love seeing them being like very like integrated in part, like in the community, and like being face to face with their fans and seeing them interact with them. I think it's a really inspiring place to be with other artists and like see that sort of connection forming in real time. I think it's great. I love it.
And was there anyone in the background?
Sorry?
I think that's good enough. Was there anyone in the background of the scene who influenced what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like from the very beginning, like working with Mick and Shane at the label, I suppose I'd take away something from even places where I haven't enjoyed working, or, you know, relationships that haven't worked out in a professional sense. I feel like there's always something that like I can take from it. Like I don't look back particularly fondly in my time at Earache, but I learned a lot about doing publicity there. Right, one of the things that Digby Pearson, the guy that runs the label, would say is, I want you to get all of my bands in everywhere, every place that people expect them to be, and a handful of places where nobody expects them to be. And I have thought about that every time I've done publicity for a band since. It's like, okay, where does this band belong? Where are the places that I have to get them so their existing fan base, or, you know, people that should like this band will find them? And then where can I put them where nobody expects to find them? So things like that, I find, even from people or relationships or dynamics that don't end up working or lasting, to find like little pieces of things that I carry with me and inform my work. I think, I don't know, if you're open, I love working, I love people. I like, you know, finding out stuff about people. So I always have this, I call it curiosity. Some people call it nosiness, but I want to take away something from all of those relationships, and like learning how other people have done stuff. And like, in some ways, the music industry as we know it, like the underground, that like, even if you want to call it like pop music, a deviation from pop music, it's very new still, realistically. So I think everybody is learning. Anyone who says they're not is lying. So it would be incredibly arrogant to enter into any kind of situation like this and think that you know everything about how to publicize a band, how to release a record, how to run a festival. I think it's important to always be learning. So I'm not really giving a very specific answer, but there are a lot of people that I've met along the way that have influenced. But like I say, even going back all the way to Mick and Shane, why do you want to set up this label? Well, we want to release our own music, but we want to release our friends' music. And like, we want to, you know, support the artists that are around us. And I think that there is a sort of a thread that runs through a lot of the work that I do even now, where I'm like, I just want to do cool things with cool people. It's like, that's what the basis of a lot of the stuff is that I do. It's like all the way through to the zine that I made this year. Like, I started with the people that were right in front of me that I know can write beautiful poems, that can write essays, that can do interviews. Like, these are my friends. And I'm like, gather it all together and put it into something cool. Like, that's the foundation of a lot of things, I think.
So I'm just going to talk about Roadburn for a little bit now.
Sure.
So you first went as a fan.
Yes.
How did that experience turn into you becoming part of the team?
I think, I can't remember what year this would have been, 2013 maybe, I went for the first time. And I only went for one day, and the next day I was very conscious that there was a really brilliant festival happening and I was not at it. And then around that time was when I started working for Relapse, and I think it might have been the following year there was maybe something crazy like 10 Relapse bands playing Roadburn, so I went somewhat in a work capacity. And I met Walter, who's the artistic director, and we only had like a brief conversation, but you know, that's when we met. And then a few months later he was coming to London for work, and we met up, and I think we went to see Godflesh together. And then a couple of months after that, he called me and said, "Would you like to work for Roadburn?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Great, I'm really busy for the next couple of weeks, but I'll give you a call soon and we'll sort stuff out." I was like, "Okay." And I went and told my partner, and I was like, "Oh my God, I've got offered a job at Roadburn." And he's like, "Doing what?" And I was like, "Oh, I hope it's something I know. I have no idea what the job is." I just said yes. So the job was like their international like press and communications, and I was like, thank God I know how to do that. So that was my first role at Roadburn, and every year the job changed a little bit, and I would take on something. I started programming, doing the side program at Roadburn. We have a side program of like panel discussions, artist interviews. We've done art exhibitions, so I got more involved in those sorts of things. And then I would, just by virtue of doing the sort of press and communications, I was working more and more with the artists when it was coming to announcing special projects and working with them, like how we're going to present things. We don't have them anymore, but we used to have curators who would do a portion of the, we've had John from Baroness, we've had Jacob Bannon from Converge, we've had all of these amazing people as our curators. So then I would sometimes work with them in like, how do we want to present this? Do we want to give this a title? So my work became more and more involved with the artists. So my progression from being the publicist to being part of the booking team was quite natural and quite gradual. But I've been part of the booking team for 5 or 6 years now. So Walter's the artistic director, and then there's a couple of us who work on the booking team. And it's my main job, really. I love it. It's very fulfilling.
Yeah, I can imagine being part of such a renowned festival as well. I mean, it's not just in the UK and Europe; it's renowned globally, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was my favorite. Of course, I'm biased now, but it was my favorite festival. Like before I worked for them, the only other festival which gave me like a similar feeling was All Tomorrow's Parties, which I went to a few times. I don't know if you guys ever went to that, but it's an incredible festival that used to happen here in the UK. And it had a lot of it happened in a couple of different places, but like in like the holiday parks. And they were very highly curated experiences, like in terms of the artists that were playing, but there was like a very strong community feeling. And those festivals wound down, I don't know, 15 years ago, maybe a bit more, I'm not sure. And so then when I went to Roadburn for the first time, I felt that like experience again of like feeling like, like literally one of the first people that like I like encountered at, at Roadburn was one of the members of Voivod, and he's just wandering down the street, and I was like, huh. And then I see other people having that experience now, when like, because people always think that the exciting place to be at a festival is backstage, but at Roadburn, backstage is just some tired people eating their dinner. All of the artists that play Roadburn are out watching other artists. So like I see that happening in real time, people going, hang on a minute, that's the guy that I just saw playing, wandering around and watching bands, because the artists and the audience are just one thing at Roadburn. Like there's not really a divide. And so yeah, when I very first went as a visitor, I was just like, this is so cool. Like there's a community here, and it's like very tangible. It's brilliant. I love it. You should come.
It's one festival I'd love to go to. I've just not had an opportunity to get across for whatever reason. Next year's already getting filled for me as it is. So yeah, I want to go. It's high on my bucket list of festivals to go to, is Roadburn.
There's not enough weekends in the year.
I know.
So you've already mentioned about the curation and aspect and the narrative with Roadburn. So how do you personally contribute to shaping the festival's identity each year?
Oh, that's a difficult question. I think, well, so Walter is the artistic director, and he has been involved with Roadburn from the very beginning. And I think Roadburn is very much like shaped in his vision. But then, yeah, I think that I suppose I'm not always that conscious of my contribution until someone else points out and go, oh, this must be a Becky booking. And I'm like, what makes you say that? But we do work very, very like collaboratively, like within the team. We discuss every booking. It's like, I was going to say I'm not given free reign. I feel like I am given a lot of free reign, but it's not like I'm just like, I've decided I want this band, I'm going to go and book it. Because a lot of, a significant part of the way we work at Roadburn is like really building kind of like you say, a narrative. Like every band has some context. It's never just like this band has a new album out, let's book them. sometimes that is a good reason, but it's like, how does it fit in with everything else? Because I think one way of sort of explaining it a little bit is like we don't really book within genre boundaries. We don't have a stage which is, this is the doom stage or this is the folk stage. Like the lineup is kind of works horizontal and vertical and diagonal and all of this. So it's like you can find many different pathways through the day at Roadburn, and we put a lot of thought into how the day comes together, how it works across the 4 days, making the festival balanced. And I suppose a good example of it is I think that we don't have a lot of death metal, for example, at Roadburn, but we do have death metal at Roadburn. But it's something like when we had like Blood Incantation, for example, we had them do two shows. They did the Time Wave Zero ambient set, and they did a proper Blood Incantation death metal set. So they kind of opened the door for some other bands to play that are more heavy in the death metal sort of vein, but some of those bands maybe wouldn't necessarily make sense without Blood Incantation. So it's like looking at it and seeing like how these things work together and like tracing the lines between bands and just doing the puzzle and piecing it all together. And sometimes it gets harder. Sometimes there's two ends of the process, and both ends are hard in different ways. When you have a blank piece of paper at the beginning and you're going, what is Roadburn 2027? And we've only really just started writing on that piece of paper for this year. So at that point, it's like, what is the shape of the festival? What are the anchor points? Like, where do we want to put some things in here? And then how do we build around it? And then the other difficult part is when we're quite near the end of the process and there's a few gaps here and there, and then I kind of like that bit though, because then it is more like a puzzle. It's like, what is the band? There is one band, I know it exists. Who is the band that fits in between these two bands? And what is the thing that's going to make this stage complete, but this day complete? And it's like, I love that challenge. It's great. But it is hard because it's like, is it this band? And then we'll talk about this band and it's not that band. We'll find the band. And yeah, so sometimes it's hard at the end, but yeah, I love that part. It's a challenge. It's fun.
So you mentioned then that Blood Incantation did 2 sets when they played, but there usually is at least one band every year who does 2 sets. You know, I think back to a couple of years ago when you had Cave In do 2 sets. Cult of Luna have done 2 sets, and Converge did 2 sets, didn't they, as well, I think?
Yeah.
So how's that decision made? Is that by committee as well?
So sometimes it does depend a lot. So again, I think it's a lot down. It's a context thing in a lot of ways, because so like this year we had Cult of Luna doing 2 shows. They did an early era set and a later era set. And the later era set featured new music that was largely unheard at that point, and some of the more recent material. But it's like Roadburn has a history of having bands play full album sets, which is a brilliant part of like the legacy. And but it's quite common now, I think, for bands to do that at other festivals and stuff as well. And sometimes we do still have bands playing full albums, but I think more frequently now we have bands playing their new albums and having them present it in full and doing, this whole new presentation. But yeah, I think it comes down to context. Like Cult of Luna is a very I think they're quite woven into the history of Roadburn. They've played a few times. They did Mariner with Julie Christmas at Roadburn. They've played their own sets. They've done Somewhere Along the Highway. They've done a lot of great stuff at Roadburn. So then when it's like a big band like that, it's like, how can we do this in a way that is interesting for them to come and play? So Roadburn is not just another festival that is going to present them in a band like Cult of Luna in some ways doesn't really need a lot of introduction to a lot of the people at Roadburn, but at the same time, like, what can we do that makes this interesting for the people that are coming that maybe have seen them a bunch of other times? Maybe they're going to tour later in the year and all these people are going to see them again, but what is going to make it a special experience for them to have it at Roadburn, for the audience, for the band, for us, that like everyone's proud of it, everyone wants this to be an amazing thing. So that's kind of how we come to the is this a band that needs like a bit more? Like, should we give them a bit more space? Should we give them the extra set to do something even cooler? And we have artists in residence at Roadburn, which is when we have an artist play 3, sometimes 4 sets across the weekend. And that's like almost like a continuation of that thought. Like from the very beginning, it's like, let's work with an artist that has a whole body of work or like different facets to their work, that we can give them the stage and the platform and the space to explore it and do something new and exciting. And sometimes we end up with innovative like collaborations that they've never done before. Or sometimes they play, when we have Full of Hell just played 4 albums in full and it was amazing. And then other people were like doing original material that's never been played before, and it gives artists the freedom to like explore their own artistry and present it in a different way. So it's a very fulfilling thing. But yeah, I suppose, yes, it's done in collaboration with us as part of a team. Like, is this a band that we should give more to? And also with the artists themselves. Of course, we work with booking agents, but as much as possible, we like speaking to the artist directly to be like, what is it you want to do? Like, what have you never done before? Like, can we do that with you? And when we have Blood Incantation doing Time Wave Zero, they'd done it once before. They played it, I think, yeah, they played it in a cave in Denver. And it was a really difficult show to make happen because they wanted to use all like original analog synths. So we had to get a synth specialist to help us track down all of these synths, which came from various different places around Europe. It cost a lot of money. And almost every person we spoke to said, there's a dupe. You can have a digital duplicate of this that will do the job better for a live performance. And trust us, it will be better, because if you're I understand why you'd want this in a studio because you want that original sound. But for a live performance, if this breaks, the show's over. And we, went back to Blood Incantation and we're like, well, we've spoken to this specialist who recommends this. Well, no, we really would like the analog original. We're like, all right. So we did it, and we pulled it off. There was no disasters. And, we had these very precious synths that like, don't breathe on them, please. And it worked, and it was great. It was amazing. It was a highlight of like that Roadburn. Yeah, it was so good.
I can imagine so with the stress of the synths, but I can also imagine after watching the documentary released by Blood Incantation that they would want that original sound.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, that's the thing. It's like the collaboration with the artist is really important. Like I'd never met Blood Incantation before they came to Roadburn, and communicating with them in advance and being like, they're being quite particular about what they want. It's like that. Sometimes that is difficult when it's like, this is expensive, or it's hard to track this thing down, or can we actually deliver what the artist needs? But ultimately, like, I say it a lot, but it's a genuine thing. We want to give the artist the platform to do their best work. Blood Incantation are a great live band. Like, they don't need like a leg up from us. Yeah. Like they're thriving. So it's like, how can we give them a platform to do something that they don't do at every show? And like, how can we make this special and interesting for the audience, for them? And yes, they were strangers to me essentially when they turned up in Tilburg, and I love them. Went to see them at Download a few weeks ago, and yeah, they're great every time I see them. It's an incredible band.
Yeah, they are amazing.
Yeah.
Is it getting harder to get bands to play the festival with so many festivals popping up these days?
I think it's harder for bands to tour consistently. It's a very expensive business. It's very an unreliable sort of source of income, I guess, for bands. Like, it's a necessary source of income, but it's very precarious, I think, the live music industry. Roadburn is often used as an anchor for bands like touring, but it's always been difficult. One of the things that stood out to me, having worked with other festivals and been involved with other festivals and stuff in the past, like, Roadburn has a very low like dropout rate of festival, like, performers. So one of the things I thought was quite interesting is like we sometimes book bands and don't announce them for quite a long time because we wait until the full tour is booked. Sometimes festivals will announce a band, and then the festival, the agent will go and try and book the tour around it. But we would always wait until the tour is confirmed or 95% confirmed, because it's quite a common thing for people to plan months and months ahead, and things fall through. So Roadburn tends to announce stuff later. We would like, and I think it's one of the reasons why we have quite a very low dropout rate. Bands very rarely cancel Roadburn. I mean, there are things which come up which are unavoidable, but it's a very difficult thing. And yes, there are a lot of festivals that come up now. There are many, and overall, I think it's a positive that people want to keep, if they have good intentions and they want to give a platform for these bands, then the more people that want to do that, the better. I think it creates a thriving community, and Roadburn isn't going to be the right festival for every band. So it's good that there are options and there is more of them. But yes, it can make things really difficult because we also have to protect what we're doing. And not that we wouldn't book a band just because they're playing another festival, but we also have to think about like what's going to make somebody want to buy a ticket to Roadburn. So although, you know, my job isn't so much about that side of like thinking about that, like it is a thing we have to think about, like what makes this a desirable thing. Like, you know, a band like Cult of Luna is doing summer festivals as well. We are very conscious that people don't have limitless money to spend on going to every festival. Like you say, there's not enough weekends, there's many festivals. So if people are going to make a choice between Roadburn and other festivals, what can we do? And that's not just about the lineup, but what can we do to make this the place where people want to come and spend their time and ultimately their money, because we know it's expensive to travel. We have a lot of international visitors coming to Roadburn. It's not cheap to do that in this day and age. So yeah, we don't ever take it for granted that like it's a commitment for people to spend the money and time with us. And so when they're there, artist and audience, we want it to be something that's memorable. So yeah, it is difficult, but making something unique and memorable for people is the driving force.
I mean, from what I know of people who go to Roadburn anyway, they often book the ticket before they leave, and they're always booking, you know, accommodation as they leave for the next year as well. So I don't think there's ever going to be a problem getting people to Roadburn while you're doing what you do. One
of the things that we do is we have like a solo and first timers meeting on the Thursday afternoon. So anyone who's come on their own or has come for the first time can come. They can have a drink with us and they can just ask any questions, and they meet other people. And it's really nice to see people like meet someone for the first time there and then bump into them a few days later and they're like hanging out with each other. Because we always say, like, if you want to, you don't have to talk to anyone, but if you want to, you will make friends at Roadburn. And when I was posting something about the first timers meetings, somebody said, I met Becky at one of these meetings, and somewhat menacingly she said to me, is this your first time at Roadburn? And I said, yes. And she said, it won't be your last. And I was like, yes, that sounds like me. You'll be back. And I was like, yes, that sounds like something I would say. But yes, I do love that part of, like, you know, that's one of the things that evolved into being part of my job. But I love that part of it, like speaking to people on the very first day, they're being like nervous and on their own and going, oh, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what. And my question is always like, well, why was it this year? What made you come? And sometimes it's like people are just like, I've wanted to come for 20 years, and people come from all over the world and it's amazing. And then sometimes people are just like, it was this one band, you booked this band and I want to see them. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's fascinating to find out why, like, what is the deciding factor that like tips someone over into going, I'm going. So yeah, it's great.
So Roadburn often champions artists at pivotal moments in their careers. How do you identify when a band is ready for that kind of spotlight?
I mean, I think it's a really good question, and it's a really interesting question. And I think some bands, ultimately what we're doing is we are giving an artist a platform, whatever way you want to view that. Like, and some artists really know how to take advantage of that platform and make the most of it, and like really leverage it into like really a catalyst to like take them to the next place, wherever it is they're trying to get to. And there have been some bands that don't understand it and they come, they play the show and they go, what was that? And then they leave. But I think it is tricky because sometimes we take a gamble. A lot of the time, the bands that we book at Roadburn are bands that we have seen, someone in the booking team has seen live. But sometimes there are bands that we have not seen. They've never played a show before, or they've never played in Europe before. And like this year we had Crippling Alcoholism and they did 2 shows. None of us had seen them live. They were supposed to come and do some dates in the UK the previous year, and which they cancelled. We didn't know if they were going to come. We didn't know if it was going to work. None of us had seen them live. They'd never played in Europe. They haven't played a lot of shows. Like, they're in Europe now doing their first proper European tour, but they don't, like, they had 2 or 3 new band members. So they'd done like 2 shows ever with the lineup that they had when they came to Europe for the first time. And it was like, we had all the confidence in them, but at the same time, then when you meet them and they're like, oh my god, I'm terrified, we're like, oh, is this going to work out? And it did. And they played to the biggest crowd that they'd ever played to on the Wednesday night, which is like our pre-show party. And I was like, you do know you're playing to twice as many people tomorrow? And they're like, shit. But they aced it. It was great. And some people were like, do you know why Crippling Alcoholism played the same set twice? I'm like, yes, because it's the only set they knew how to play. because they had these new band members, and it's like they just needed to get there, play the shows, and both shows were great. But yeah, it is hard to gauge, but I think in some ways you could apply that question to people who work at record labels and assigning bands, like, or booking agents. Is this the right time to take on this band? They might be a good live band, but are they good at touring? Can they tour? Like, are they ready to do this? Do all of the things align? Because if you take on a band as a booking agent, but they have no new record out and there's no new record due and they have no record label and they have no plan to release it, like, your job is a lot harder as a booking agent to like get them out on tour. And on the other side of that, as a record label, like, you might have a really great band on your hands, but they've never played live, or they played one show and then they're actually not a live band after all, but they need to do this and they need to do, you know. So like, how do you weigh all of that up? And to some degree, whichever role it is, a booking agent, I suppose a manager, a record label, a festival booker, any of that, like, there is an element of risk. Like, I don't know, I like them, they seem promising, this looks good, is it going to work out? And I think that's one of the great things about how we work as a team at Roadburn, because we triangulate. You know, someone might have seen them live, someone like knows someone who knows somebody in the band, and you know, we gather all of this information together and like try and piece it together as best we can. But then of course, alongside that, it's like the artistic part of it is such a significant, like, is this a band doing something new and exciting, and is this going to push Roadburn forwards? Is this a band that's pushing their own boundaries? Can they push our boundaries too? Like, all of these are considerations in when it comes to booking a band. And so like that balance of like, maybe it's a risk because they've never done this before, they've never played a show, or this is going to be their second live show, or they've got a whole new lineup. But sometimes the risk is just worth taking, to be like, yes, they're going to go for it, they're going to seize this opportunity. So yeah, it very rarely goes wrong so far, touch wood.
And how has working on Roadburn shaped your relationship with heavy music and experimental music?
Enormously. It shaped it in all kinds of ways. I think I have a much deeper understanding of the artists, their artistic process, how they view the world, how they view their music in the world. I feel very like privileged to see almost like behind the scenes of how some of these things come. I am a fan, first and foremost, of music and of the music that we put on at Roadburn and music that I engage with elsewhere. So to be able to see the artistic process a little bit more and understand how the artists are making that music is invaluable to me. It's like, it is very defining in the way that I work and the people that I want to work with, and the morals that I have and the ethics that I want to work with. And yeah, it's been an incredible experience to meet so many people and have their trust that we will work well with them at Roadburn, and that we'll look after them, and that we'll help them deliver a really good show. But yeah, I find it fascinating. Like, someone who I've become good friends with, like, we have this is a relic. Well, we're about to go into the third year of it, but it's the first time we've done it. We have it's called our Triennium Artist in Residence, which is an artist in residence that we have booked consciously 3 years in a row. So we've just had the second year. Her name is Lane Shee. Her artist name is Oteoni. And I knew her, like, I'd seen her perform. I knew she was an incredible artist, but I didn't really know her on a personal level. But when we chose her to be our 3-year artist in residence, we knew her as an artist. But over the course of working with her, I've got to know her as a person, and I think she's incredible. And like, understanding like the way I couldn't profess to understand the way her brain works. It's incredible. But like, understanding it a little bit more and getting to see how all of the gears turn and how she comes up with these amazing things, it's fascinating. And it helps me with the work that I do understand how artists move through the world, and not everyone's the same. So it has shaped my life enormously, like the work that I do and the work that I hope to continue doing in various different forms. So yeah, it's been a privilege and like fascinating work.
So moving on a little bit from Roadburn now, and I think it sort of flows in nicely. When you're looking at your other roles in PR, what is it that you're looking for when you're working with a new artist or a new label or even a new record?
Well, I actually quit being a publicist last year, but I really loved being a freelance because I had that freedom to choose the people that I worked with. And I think first and foremost, it's always the music. Is this something that I want to listen to? Is this something that I believe in? Is this something that I connect to? And then the second layer of that is like, is this something that I can do justice to? Like, can I help this artist tell a story? Like, is there something here? And finding the balance between those two things, because sometimes I would really love a record, but the artist doesn't really want to do interviews and they don't want to talk about things. I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway. It's going to be very difficult. It's definitely difficult, but then I think the more experience I have, and the more artists that I work with, and the more people want to work with me again, like the more content I felt in the work that I was doing. And like, it was I found it very enjoyable and very satisfying to work with artists over multiple releases, and when artists would want to come back to me and work with me again. But yeah, ultimately, the reason that I quit being a publicist is because I didn't find it as fulfilling as I did previously. And I don't think they'd mind me saying it, but the band that was like the tipping point was Bellwitch, who I had worked with previously, and I love them dearly as a band and as people. But that was partly because I loved them so much. When it came to like committing to doing it was the Stygian Bow record. When it came to doing that, I realized I didn't love the job. Like, nothing to do with the music, nothing to do with them. I was just like, I don't think I can do justice to this because my heart's not in the work anymore. And it was very difficult because like I could not imagine a time where I'd not want to work with Dylan and Jesse. And then when confronted with it, I was like, oh no, I don't want to do it. And I had to be like, I don't want to do it anymore. And they were like, oh, okay, that's okay. So that was when I realized that my heart wasn't in the job. I still very much believed in like the things that made me want to be a publicist in the first place, that like being some kind of weird conduit from the art to the audience, that still like informs the work that I believe in and I want to do. But publicity was not the way to do it anymore. But to answer your question, yes, it's like loving the music and loving the people that are doing it and feeling like some connection to what they're trying to put out into the world is what drives me to make those choices. And of course, like I know other publicists feel this way. Like the more experience you have and the better your reputation over the years, then you get opened up to new possibilities and like working with bands. Like my favorite band on the planet is Cave In, and to work on their last record, Heavy Pendulum, was like my dream come true. So like to be able to do something like that, I can't believe my luck that I did it, sort of thing, still now. So yeah, what would I look for in a band that I want to work with? I want them to be Cave In. Like that's the real answer. And luckily Cave In wanted to work with me, so it worked out. Yeah.
And you've been starting putting shows on locally in Glossop. What sparked that idea?
Well, I've lived in Glossop 10 years this year, and I suppose probably for the first couple of years it was just a relief to not be living in London. It was like a nice change of pace. And like I said, I go to shows in Manchester a lot. I love going to shows in Manchester. But then I kind of was a bit like, wouldn't it be nice if there were shows in Glossop? And I met a few like-minded people who thought the same, and we put on a few shows together. And it kind of worked quite organically, but now I'm doing it like on my own, like I'm promoting shows on my own. But this is a spoiler technically, but in a couple of weeks we're announcing this, that like there's a few of us that are kind of joining forces to sort of have like an umbrella. We're not promoting shows together as such, but like we're all people who like want to put on slightly like alternative, different music in Glossop. So we're kind of working together to try and put Glossop on the map a little bit for that sort of thing. But yeah, Thou was the first band that I booked for that last April. And then last November, I worked with a guy called Simon who does shows in Manchester under the banner Grey Lantern, and we put on Big Brave here, and we've booked Deaf Kids together for later this year. And I booked Joe Quayle to come and play in Glossop, which is in October. So it's only realistically, I'm kind of picking it up again now, doing it under this umbrella. But like, I think that doing a handful of shows in Glossop every year is a very like fulfilling thing. And ultimately it comes back to the same thing I'm saying. I want to do cool things with my friends. And I love the idea of being able to do it just down the road. That maybe that's me being lazy though, I don't know. But I think it's something really special to be able to put on a show which is a little bit different. and make sure that the band still feels valued and looked after, and we're happy that they're there. And I don't want it to just feel like just another stop on the tour. Like I want, like, you know, we buy them dinner in the pub and we eat dinner together, and it's like, welcome to Glossop. And it's, you know, like when Thou announced the show in Glossop, I think it was the most northern date on their tour, everyone was mad in Scotland, and people were just like, what is Glossop? And they were like, our friend Becky lives there. And I was like, so there you go.
I was mad on the other side of Manchester because I couldn't get a ticket.
Sorry.
I was on a waiting list and everything for that one. Oh, yeah. It was. I was desperate to get that one. As soon as the scene was announced, I was on to try and get a ticket and couldn't, and I was absolutely wounded.
I was the following week at Roadburn. I was basically making them tell all of the bands, isn't it nice playing in Glossop? And they were like, yes. And I did catch one of them saying, I don't know if we'd even play Manchester again. We'd play Glossop every time. And I'm like, yes, that's the one. That's what I want to hear. So
give us a heads up next time out so I can get in the front of the queue.
Okay, I'll let you know. But I do know that it's like, maybe it requires a little bit of, well, no, I know it requires a little bit of trust from the band and the booking agent, because, you know, Thou was the biggest band that, you know, we booked to come and play in Glossop, and, you know, they are my friends and they're very amenable. Like when I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. Will people come? I think people will come, but like, I'm a bit nervous. Like, what if I can't pay you everything? They're just like, it's fine. It's going to be fine. Like, we're not going to be mad at the end of the tour if we're £300 down and we're going to be like, damn, wish we, you know, hadn't gone and played for Becky. Like, the point is, like, we want to do a nice thing and do a fun thing together. So let's do that. And it worked out great. Like, it was sold out. So all of my fears were unfounded, and it sold out, like I say, 2 hours. So it's like brilliant. But I know that like not every show will be like that, but I want it to feel somehow like have a little piece of that magic, that like maybe this is weird, maybe this shouldn't be happening in Glossop, but somehow it works. That's what I want people to think. And I also know that it's going to require some people being willing to travel from Manchester or further afield. But again, I don't know. I know maybe it's asking a lot, but I want people to embrace the weirdness and just like, why not? And when we did Big Brave in November, I was thinking about it, the way I reasoned with it, because it's like the only date that we could do it was a Monday night. And I was like, will people come to Glossop on a Monday night in November to see Big Brave? And I thought I would drive to Holmfirth to see Big Brave on a Monday night. There must be enough mad people like me to make this work. And there was. So I just need to find all of those like 80 or 90 people in this vicinity that will do something like that, and then we'll be fine. It's all good. So
what has the local response been like to the gigs that you've been put on outside of the friendship group?
Well, we got a noise complaint for Big Brave. In this ride, the Globe were great. There's been probably a little bit of bemusement, but a lot of people who live around Glossop, because, you know, there's a whole bit of geography between Glossop and Manchester where a lot of music fans live, and it's not that weird to just get on the train for 10-15 minutes and come to Glossop. So yeah, although there were definitely angry people in Scotland going, why are Thou playing in Glossop, there were a lot of people in the northwest who were sort of like, oh my god, Thou playing in Glossop, and it's great. And yeah, I was doing the door at the Big Brave show, and like some people were like, thank you for putting this show on, and I was like, you're welcome. And they're like, how strange. And I'm like, how strange. Yeah, it's great. I love it. And that people are willing to take, I don't know, does it sound weird to say take the risk, but like just go, it's just the room above a pub, and yeah, I hope it works out. And it does. It sounds great in the room. And yeah, the local response, I want people from Glossop to come like to the show as much as I want people to travel, because yeah, bit by bit, like you meet people who, like, I met someone today who was like, just in the course of conversation, and I was like talking about my work, and they were like, are you the person that booked Thou? And I was like, yes. They're like, oh my god, that show was great. And I'm like, yes. So it's very satisfying to do that, and like, yeah, do something that doesn't necessarily on paper look like it should work, but it does. That's the thing I want to do.
So when you're looking at the next few years, what parts of your work do you see growing or evolving most?
All of it. I find it difficult to say no. Well, the other thing that I do, I think, did I mention it earlier? I think I did. Like, I made a zine this year. I write for the last 3 years. I've written a newsletter every Friday about music, but it's like, I don't know, I don't review bands. I write about my experience with music. So sometimes it's a show I've been to, sometimes it's a record I've been listening to. My newsletter is called Slowpoke because I believe that we engage with music best at a slow pace, at our own pace. So I write this newsletter about music, and then from there, it kind of evolved a bit into the idea of making a zine. And that kind of also came a little bit from my resistance or rejection of the status quo in the way that publicity works and a lot of like marketing and journalism and stuff. And I found it very tiring, like the way that bands are kind of like pushed into this release cycle and hype, and then it's gone. And I don't believe that's how we as fans connect with music. Like, yes, it's great to know when there's something new coming out, but like whether we fall in love with a record is nothing to do with how it, well, for me, it's nothing to do with like, because it came out this week, this is the most important thing this week, and then next week something else is the most important thing. It's great to be exposed to all that new music, but I think the reality of how we engage with music and connect to music is way slower and takes time, and to understand the nuance of what's in a record or how an artist works, it takes time, hence being slow. So I started making a zine as well, partly because I want something that exists offline, that's a little bit less to do with scrolling. And yeah, so like I said earlier, I gathered together some of my friends who I kind of asked them to do something that was fitted the theme of Slowpoke, like to, coming to something in your own time, discovering something. Yeah, so I ended up with a load of really beautiful things. My friend Cody did an interview with the black metal band Yellow Eyes, who really like labored over their last album. It was a very intense process for them. And he wrote a beautiful like long form interview with them. I interviewed Blake Armstrong, who's the cover artist, who's a painter. And he's someone who's quite resistant to online life and selling his work online, and just like the way he kind of creates a very magical other world through his paintings. So like all of these things just like coalesced together, and I made a zine, and it's been a lot of fun, and I would love to continue. I'm already working on the second issue. I did an interview with Thomas Hooper, the tattooist and visual artist, a couple of weeks ago, and I'm piecing together things now. So that will be out in I don't want to be too ambitious about soon. I hope to develop that a bit further. Like I like the idea of making a zine because it's very flexible. I'm not beholden to anyone in terms of deadlines and things like that. And I think as long as it's interesting and I find people that are interested in contributing, then I don't know. I love zines. I collect zines. I think they're a great artifact of music and culture, which exists sort of outside of marketing and like what someone is paid for to be present. I think it's a brilliant like snapshot of subcultures. So yeah, I'm a big zine fan. So yeah, I would like just be as and when. Yeah, and I'd like to develop that a bit more. But yeah, like Roadburn is like a very big part of my life, and I hope it continues to be. I think the sort of ethos of the festival is about like community and connection and pushing boundaries and like artistic vision. So I think that there are endless opportunities for the direction that can go in. And yeah, putting on shows in Glossop, great. I'm doing a master's at I find it very difficult to say no to things.
We've noticed.
It's like when I like say, oh, my job is Roadburn, and then I start talking to somebody, and I'm like, oh, and then I do this, and then I do this, and I do some teaching at this place, and oh, I host this thing. But in my head, like, although there are like clearly defined areas that I work and certain people that I work for, and then I'm remembering things when I'm saying it now. I work with a guy called Patrick Walker who just released a new album under the name Warning. So like I work with him, but it's like people are like, what's that job? And I'm like, I just work with Patrick. Just do that thing there. So it's some of it doesn't necessarily have a title or have a name, and it's not clearly defined, but in my mind it's very connected. Like they all make sense, they all work perfectly together, and sometimes this thing takes up more time and sometimes I'm very good at multitasking. and bad at saying no. Yes. So they all intertwine. So I just want to do more of it. Like, what am I going to do in the next 5 years? More of it is the plan, I hope.
Is there any bands that you think we should be checking out as well that maybe we haven't heard of yet?
Goodness. Almost certainly. I mean, let me think. So a lot of the music that I've been listening to over the last few weeks is stuff for Roadburn. So I don't want to say, well, there's this new, because then I'll be giving things away. Well, I don't know. Maybe you know this artist. I don't know. Do you know Greet?
Oh, okay. I recognise the name.
So it's a worthwhile mention because I booked Greet to support Joe Quayle at the show in Glossop in October. But it's Matthew, who was the drummer from the black metal band Dawn Raid. And he has this like harmonium driven folk kind of project called Greet.
Yes, I do know who they are now. You said that.
Brilliant. It's so good. And he played Roadburn last year, and then as a consequence of playing Roadburn, went on tour with Steve Von Till last summer. But I think it's really good music, but it's got a heaviness to it, even though it's very like accessible because it's like folk music and it's quite gentle in some places, but it has a heaviness to it as well. So I definitely would recommend that. So yeah, I'm in terms of what I've been listening to for like, I feel like I would be giving away too many spoilers.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. I wouldn't want you to do that.
Yeah.
I know you said you're really busy and there's not enough time in the week, but is there any project or ambition sitting in the back of your mind that you really want to bring to life?
Well, I think like the zine was a big one for a long time because I've talked about it for years before doing it. And I feel like that's that sort of has been a long brewing thing. So I almost feel like in terms of like, I mean, I have a million things I want to do all of the time, of course, but I suppose maybe developing it. I'm not sure what I want to do with it. Like if it's something that I want to do forever or if it's something I want to do 4 issues of and then it's like a complete thing. I don't know. So I'll see how that develops. More writing, I think. I really enjoy writing. I think it's writing around music and culture. Of course, there's lots of writing about that, but I think, I kind of briefly said I'm doing a master's degree in creative practice at the moment. So a lot of that is like writing focused. But also, the creative element of that and where that intersects with my job and like everything else I'm doing. So developing that further, I think, probably, and seeing what avenues open up to explore that further. I'm sure there'll be some and I'll walk down many of them. Yeah.
So it's time to move on to our fun questions now.
Are they fun or are they going to terrorize me and then I'm going to think, oh no, I should have said that.
It's fun for us.
Okay.
What was the first live gig or show you ever attended?
The Radio On massive music festival at the Brighton Event 2 featuring, do you remember Michelle Gale? She was on EastEnders. And MN8. That was my first show.
If you could form a supergroup made of Roadburn alumni, who are you putting in it?
Okay. Well, there is a work in progress. No. That's a spoiler. No. Hang on. Am I in the band or am I just putting? Am I in the band or I'm putting a band together?
You can be either or. If you want to be in the band, Becky, you can put yourself in the band.
I mean, I don't have the musical talent. Remember, this is where we started. No musical talent. But I did just get a bit overexcited at the thought. Then that's okay. Okay, let's think. I would have Nate Newton from Converge, so he can be on bass. I would have Emma Ruth Rundle. I would have Dave Bland from Full of Hell on drums. I think I'll put Emma on guitar. Let's think. I'll have. How many people can I have in this supergroup? I could just keep going.
Just keep going.
Say 5.
Okay, 5. I'll have Lane Oteoni. She can be the vocalist, the front person. She also plays guitar, so versatile. So So one more. I guess that's maybe another guitarist or someone on synths or something like that.
We've got no drummer yet either. We've only got
Dave
got
Mann,
3.
he's the drummer.
Oh,
Full of
sorry,
help.
Dave. Sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
apologies.
I'll have Chip from the Body. Chip King. He's the good vibes, apart from anything else. There we go. That's
So the body you get involved with everything anyway. So
yeah, that's a super group. Yeah,
that is very good.
Dave. Who did I say? So Dave, Emma, Nate, Chip, Lane. Oh, perfect. Sign me up.
What's the strangest or funniest email you've ever had in your inbox?
I don't know if I can answer this honestly without incriminating somebody. I mean, this is not the funniest, but I get these relatively often, and I do have a little chuckle when I get, people sending very heartfelt emails that are actually just copy and paste, and they're like asking, "Can I play Arctangent Festival?" or "Can I play Beyond the Gates?" And I'm like, I don't know. You probably better ask them. But no, I do sometimes say that. But I am always nice when people do that, because I can imagine the mortification. Even though I do think it's lazy to just send a copy and paste email, I can't imagine how embarrassing it is when you realize your mistake and you're like, oh my God, I hope she never replies. Just forget I ever asked. But yeah, I do quite like those emails. It makes me laugh.
If you could force one band to play a surprise 7 a.m. set at Roadburn, who's getting the early morning punishment?
Well, so is this, they have to get up and play at 7 a.m. or the party just continues till 7 a.m.? If it's like...
Well, if the party can continue, you could still force them to get up, I suppose.
I feel like if it was that, I would choose The Bug. Because I think, like, The Bug has played in Manchester, like, and like Disfig, and they've done stuff together, but like when they play at like the White Hotel in Salford, and it's like a club night, and it starts at 1 a.m. and finishes at 7 a.m. and they're like, Becky, are you coming to the show? And I'm like, no, I will be in bed. I'm 43. Like, are you mad? So if it was like a late night 7 a.m., I would choose Kevin Martin, The Bug. If it was getting up at 7 a.m. to play a show, I feel like Steve Von Till might get up early. Like, he could do a nice acoustic folk thing at 7 a.m. for breakfast. I'll take that. Yeah.
If you weren't working in music, what job do you think you'd be doing?
I mean, before I did this job, I worked at a university and I did admin. And I just organized people there. So I think I'd be organizing people no matter what I was doing. I recently, I realized that that's what I just like. Yeah, I like organizing things. So I ended up going to Mallorca, where the Ocean were shooting a music video, and there's this incredibly talented guy called Craig Murray, who's also in a band called Ian, who are playing Glossop, not my show, but playing Glossop in a couple of weeks. And he used like the mastermind of this video. And I was just on holiday, but I was like, well, this doesn't look very organized. Let me help with this. And he was like, he was doing so much, like he was building props. He was, designing everything. And within about 6 hours of meeting him, he had appointed me as his assistant director. And I was like, this is great. And he was like, have you ever done this work before? I feel like you're a natural. And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just having a great time. And he was like, okay, you're hired. And I was like, fantastic. So yeah, I would just find someone to organize, I think, regardless of what it was. I like working with creative people. I like, the way a creative mind works. So I don't know what field that would be in, but some crossover of organizing a creative mind, perhaps.
Okay, so we'll move on to the quickfire questions now.
Oh God, I'm not good at quickfire. Okay.
Drone set or blast beats?
Blast beats.
Always Sunny or Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Always Sunny. Always Sunny. I'm going to stick with my first answer.
Sweaty pub show or atmospheric church gig?
Oh, I feel like I should say sweaty pub show, because that's what I am putting on in Glossop. Although there is a church that I want to put on. Yeah, okay, I'm going to go sweaty pub show for now.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Merch, shirts or vinyl?
Vinyl.
Chips with curry or chips with gravy?
Gravy. That one was easy.
And our last question. A meat feast pizza with marshmallow crust or garlic bread with Nutella drizzle?
Garlic bread with Nutella drizzle, because I'm a vegetarian.
Becky, thank you for coming on and filling us in a little bit more on what you do. It's been brilliant.
It's been awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.